Calling someone a system quarterback might be one of the best ways to discount their achievements. It can work in just about every situation. Technically speaking, every quarterback lives within an offensive system or scheme, and until that guy is forced to play on a different team with a different group of guys, it won't ever be proven. Brock Purdy might be our best current example of the system QB label. Last season, he threw for a nearly 70% completion rate, over 4,000 yards, 31 touchdowns, and led the league in passer rating. On paper, he was one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And yet, PFF ranked him as the 13th best player at the position in a tier called the melting pot of starters. PFF knew it was a slightly hot take for the quarterback that played in last year's Super Bowl, starting off the blurb by saying they're fairly comfortable with where they placed him. But I also get it. The Niners have been loaded with talent the past couple of years, and this is just my bias, Purdy doesn't necessarily look like a top-of-the-line QB or have the biggest arm. But there are aspects of his game that are undeniable, like his fantastic sense of anticipation, especially when throwing to the middle. Just check out this pass against the Dallas Cowboys in Week 5. Before the snap, tight end Charlie Warner's motion helps push the leverage of the linebackers away from where the pass is going. With Micah Parsons on the edge likely to pass rush, and the two DBs on the same side for the two receivers, this means that either Leighton Vander Esch or Malik Hooker will need to cover McCaffrey's route coming out of the backfield. We see Vander Esch have to declare where he's going because he's already been pushed away from McCaffrey's side, as the other backers vacate the middle of the field. Simultaneously, Brandon Ayuk and Ray McCloud run nice routes that cross each other to trick Ayuk's matchup. And then just check out when Purdy is throwing this. The ball is coming out right as Ayuk and McCaffrey are making their breaks in opposite directions. It's a super confident pass that gives his receiver room to catch the ball and avoid a big hit from the safety crashing down. Still, it can be easy to see this and write it off as his just being in one of the best situations in the league. Would he really be doing this if he was on a more mediocre team? Is Brock Purdy really just a system quarterback? If there's any testament to how good Purdy's been in his first 2 years, it's that his being the last overall pick in the 2022 draft gets mentioned less and less when he's brought up. After his first start or two, I remember my dad texting me something along the lines of, "You seen this Brock guy? He's pretty good." And I said, "Very clever, Dad," and went on believing it was a fun story but that it would all fall apart sooner or later. But then he kept winning and winning all the way to the NFC Championship before getting knocked out of the game with a torn UCL. And in this most recent year, he proved to all of us, and especially the Eagles, that his rookie year was no fluke. Through the first 3 quarters of the season, he was receiving legitimate MVP buzz and was a favorite to win the award after Week 15. Everything was going great for him until a big flock of Ravens took a shit on his head on Christmas Day. He gifted Baltimore 4 interceptions that night in what would be the worst game of his career so far, as he watched Lamar Jackson go on to secure the MVP vote from him. Now, if you ask me, really only one of those interceptions was totally his fault, and we'll look closer at it a little later. Still, Purdy was quickly shoved back from potentially receiving the elite label. And maybe he really was just a system quarterback. An extremely high-level system quarterback, but a system quarterback nonetheless. You don't need to dig too deep to convince people he was in one of the best quarterback situations in the league. Running back Christian McCaffrey, fullback Kyle Juszczyk, tight end George Kittle, and left tackle Trent Williams all received All-Pro honors this past season. That's nearly an entire offense of All-Stars. And even the guys who weren't getting formally recognized were still producing at a high level. Whether it was Ayuk, who had his second 1,000-yard receiving season in a row, or Deebo Samuel, whose dynamism cannot be overstated. In fact, there was a bit of a Deebo narrative that was going around later in the year, where some wondered if he was really the spoon that stirred the drink. Purdy and the 49ers were 0-3 when Samuel played 15% or less of the offensive snaps last year, and 12-1 with him. And if you wanted to discount Purdy in a more nuanced but related way, you could point to how great he was off play action last year. PFF graded him as the 3rd best quarterback in the league off this play type, and his completion rate was 12.5% higher off these passes, good for the 2nd highest completion rate difference in the league. With 23% of his dropbacks coming off of play action, you could argue that a good chunk of his numbers were bolstered by San Fran's top 5 running game. Check out this play against the Buccaneers in Week 11, where we can see how San Francisco leverages their good running game for easy passes and tons of yak. Head coach Kyle Shanahan is perhaps most known for his zone blocking run scheme. Simply put, zone blocking refers to the linemen blocking defenders who come into their assigned areas as opposed to having blocking matchups like in a power scheme. One of the key indicators of a zone block is when all of the linemen take a step in the same direction in unison as they move to plug up their areas. We see that here. That first step, along with Purdy turning his back and the field position, all help pull the Bucs defenders towards the line while Kittle sneaks out the side door. He finds wide open space, and Purdy can make this easy dump off and pick up 20 passing yards. And while I do think his numbers get a little inflated by these types of plays, it's also really difficult to win as consistently as he and the 49ers have. Getting to an NFC Championship or Super Bowl is tough no matter who you are and what the team looks like. Former Niners receiver Emmanuel Sanders recently shared a conversation he had with Debo on why people are sleeping on Purdy as a top-level quarterback. Debo Samuel said, "Man, you should see him in the huddle. He comes in the huddle, he plays with a certain confidence, he comes in, he believes, he makes other guys believe." Unfortunately, there is no metric for belief, but let's take a closer look at what Purdy does that might make his team believe in him, as well as parts of his game that prevent him from being in that top echelon of quarterbacks right now. One thing you can't escape in Purdy's tape is just how much he loves throwing the ball to the middle part of the field. If I was his wife, I'd be a little jealous. Over 40% of his passes came in the short and intermediate middle parts of the field, and on a good majority of these throws, Purdy displays an extremely high level of anticipation and rhythm. It's probably the most special thing about him. Here's an example against Tampa Bay that looks somewhat similar to the play against Dallas I showed earlier. Purdy will get this one to Samuel, who has linebacker Devin White matched up on him. With Samuel's quickness, everyone in the stadium knows this is going to be a tough cover for the backer. White tries to keep with Samuel and uses his body to try and leverage Samuel out of the middle of the field, but one quick move gets him cutting across the linebacker's face. Again, Purdy throws this early, right as Samuel is making his move, giving his receiver space to catch the ball and come down with it to avoid the defenders pursuing him in the middle of the field. You see these throws from him constantly. It got to the point where I almost got bored watching his film because over and over again, he'd make these anticipatory passes to the middle for 10 to 20 yards. But I think some of his reliance on these passes can be taken advantage of by talented and savvy defenses. He can be a bit robotic in his throws and has yet to really learn how to use his eyes to manipulate defenses. Knowing where he typically wants to go with the ball, DBs can watch his eyes and make breaks on passes for turnover opportunities. Here's that interception I referenced against the Ravens, which came on SF's first drive of the game. The Ravens will play quarters coverage, meaning their 4 DBs will be responsible for a quarter of the field, with 3 intermediate defenders to protect the middle. Purdy wants to get this ball to Samuel, who is running a rounded post into the middle of the end zone. He takes the snap and gives a glance to the right side of the field and sees safety Kyle Hamilton take a step that way. Because the cornerback starts to take the zig route from Juszczyk, I think Purdy is trusting that Hamilton will be forced to move down and over to defend Kittle's out route. Only the Ravens defenders pass off the receivers in their zones, and because Kittle's route is shallow, Hamilton suddenly becomes unconcerned with it. Check out the moment he realizes this and then gets his eyes on Purdy. He sees Purdy take his hand off the ball, so he locates the receiver coming towards where he's looking and jumps in front of it for the clean pick. Every so often, you'd catch Purdy forcing passes to where they seemed to be schemed to go without necessarily considering what the defense was doing. Right now, it feels like he's using his eyes to identify stuff for himself rather than also as a tool to keep passing lanes open. I think this will be the next big step he'll need to take in his development to get into that next tier of quarterback. The last point I wanted to make on Purdy was that I think he's got a solid pocket presence. He can navigate traffic nicely to get throws off, like he does here in the Super Bowl to get a deep ball off to Debo. While it falls incomplete, I thought it was a great example of how he can make subtle movements to give himself time for options downfield to open up. Along with that, he also seems to have a good sense of when to take off and scramble for a couple yards. It's a solid combo to have a guy who can push the ball downfield with anticipation as well as pick up a few yards with his legs when things aren't there. I was a little concerned with how he seemed to step away from pressure as he passed when it engulfed him. I thought I'd see more times where it affected his accuracy, and it might have just been the games I watched, but I rarely saw it leading to a severely off-target pass. Personally, I would like to see him take this tendency out of his game to feel even better about his consistency as a passer, but I also get that he's protecting himself and making it work. Brock Purdy is really good. He can make the throws, stay calm in the pocket, and has been praised throughout his 2 years for his leadership and ability to make guys believe. But I don't think it's unfair to wonder how good he might be on another team with lesser players and worse coaching. He isn't using his eyes at a high level, and he can force throws that aren't there. And while every quarterback gets some help from the run game and play action, I do think some of those MVP caliber numbers were slightly inflated by San Francisco's talent and scheme. Still, system quarterback feels like a dig to him just for the connotation it brings. I don't know if this is any better, but I at least feel better saying that Purdy can give a team a very high floor, but that he might not raise that team's ceiling on his own. Had he been in Desmond Ritter's shoes in Atlanta last year, I think that team would have won the NFC South, but had he been in Carolina, I think the Panthers still come in last place. But I also don't think Purdy is a finished product. He'll turn 25 in his third NFL season this year, and it's only the second one where he'll be a full-time starter throughout the entire process. So yeah, Purdy might technically be propped up by the Niners system, and that ranking of 13th may be closer to the truth than a ranking of, say, 5th. But that's only for the right now. Keep an eye on Purdy this next season. He may just surprise you with how good he can get. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please remember to give it a like if you did enjoy it, and please consider subscribing to the channel so you can catch the next one. Thanks, bye.